We have less than 38 days to get this thing running and driving in the horsepower rodeos this November. So objective for today, get rear end mounted and then get front spindles mounted. Make it a roller. I don't have a whiteboard, so deal with it. Also, it's not the size of the pry bar, it's how you use it. But I'm gonna go get started on both these things and she will be rolling by the end of this video. At the time of this recording, we hit 2,100 subscribers. That is absolutely insane. I thought we were gonna hit that in like 2 months, maybe 3 months of me posting videos. You guys are awesome. I mean, I set record after record and you guys just keep smashing it and smashing it in like a tenth of the time that I think you are. So I'm gonna set a record that is kind of insane, but I know that you guys can do it. I want to hit 26,000 subscribers before the end of 2025. It sounds like a lot and kind of insane, but you guys keep smashing every record that I set, so I have to go bigger. I mean, it's insane how fast we've grown in just such a short time. And I appreciate every single one of you. But I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna get started on this. So let's get to it. So last we left off, we were getting everything just kind of mocked up. But today we're gonna get the rear axle mounted and the front spindles mounted so she can hopefully become a roller and not be sitting on stands for the rest of her life. She wants to be released of her jack stand prison and I can feel it. So to get these differential mounts made up, you guys know what tool I love to use. It's the most high-tech piece of equipment in this shop. Cardboard. We're gonna grab our little template maker here. Head over to the differential. Set it on here. Get a nice shape for what we need. Then we head over to the piece of cardboard. We got our high-tech piece of cardboard here. We're literally just gonna build it like a go-kart. We're gonna set it underneath here. It's just a mock-up so that whenever everything else is done and everything else is set where I want it to be, the engine's running and everything, then we can build actual real brackets for the rear end. So now we know the height and angle that we need to be at before we just start doing this. And then next thing you know, it's all wrong. So after we get that done, we're gonna do work on the front spindles, but I'm gonna head to the old chop saw and get this cut out. So now that these are cut out, we're gonna head to the vise and then we're gonna use my grinder to get the shape cut out and then we'll weld them to the rear end. All right, so now that we got these all even and cut out and smooth, we're gonna pop them out of the vise. Grab them off the floor. Pop them out of the vise and then we're going to move on to welding them to the differential. But first we get to play the game of lift the heavy object and put it on the table. So now that I totally grabbed my engine hoist to put it up here, we're gonna make sure that these are center with the exact width of the frame, and then we're going to weld them underneath of here, and then head over to the frame and weld them up, and she will be finally able to sit on her rear differential. I actually forgot that I cut out a section of the frame that's the exact same width as the rear section. So I'm gonna use this as an easy template to make sure that everything's center so that when we put it inside the frame, it just fits perfectly the first time. So now that we got it where I want it, all we're gonna make sure is now that we flip this differential, get the underside of it cleaned up with my little grinder, and then we're gonna tack her in there after we recenter it. Now that she's all cleaned up and she's centered with the frame again, all we're gonna do now is weld those plates underneath of it, and then we're gonna take it over there and tack her in. A long time, but we got everything perfect, here to here, here to here. Everything's centered, now we just gotta weld her up. Now that these mock-up mounts are made, I have to specify that because someone's gonna roast me in the comments. Mock-up mounts are made, we're gonna put it into the rear of the car. With the differential in there, we get to go through the painstaking process of making sure that it is level with the frame and everything's even and centered. Now that this is perfectly level and even, all we're gonna do now is tack weld the back of this plate so that I can kind of figure out where the angle of the differential needs to sit. You see that nice oil stain? Don't worry, we're gonna be welding over it. And I got a nice thing of water just in case. Now that that's welded up in the rear, we're gonna grab this little piece over here, figure out our angle that we need, and then once it's at that angle, we will fully tack weld these in, and then we'll start cutting the rear section to fit our tires. So I made this little jig that goes off of the differential, and it's perfect to where the outer radius of this is the outer radius of the line, which that's exactly where the tire is gonna sit. But instead of screwing up this body, when I know everything's where it needs to be, I'll come up here and I'll cut the nice one, because this one's way too nice to just ruin off of a whim. The tires rub and they're not even bolted on yet. I think all I'm gonna do to fix this is just get a nice piece of flat bar, push it back here, and then just tuck these tires in, which sucks because that rear end is now mounted in there, but we'll take it out real quick and get her all finished up. So now that we got that out, all we gotta do is cut that notch out, take it to the old flat bar bender, bend it up, and weld it in. All right, she's notched out and on there. And I was gonna grab a piece of that flat bar and just put it up against this, and it did work, but it had barely enough clearance, and I don't really wanna go any deeper into the frame. So on the inside of this is 2.5 inches. So I'm just gonna go to the steel yard tomorrow and just get a 2.5 inch piece of flat bar and put it on the inside of here and then just weld it up. So it's still gonna be just as strong. I'm gonna put some, more barring down here to make it even stronger, but it'll actually go flush inside with it. But I have to go back to the old plate over here and get everything recentered. I'm not really gonna bore you guys with this one. You guys know the drill. Cardboard. All right, now that I finished the cardboard again, I already drew out the marks for the notches on the frame. Now I'm just gonna make this out of metal and put it up to here. All right, so now they're all finished up. All we need to do now is weld them in. Obviously on the other side, but weld them in. Now that the diff is all welded up again, we're gonna set her in there and hopefully everything goes well and we can weld it up and then we can start on our front spindles. All right, those are tack welded in there, so now we get to do the most satisfying part and finally put wheels on this bad girl. Now that the rear tires are on there, I just think it looks funny like this. We're gonna do the front spindle mounts now. All I think I'm gonna do is just use this tubing and just do the normal go-kart style and then hook her up. Spindles are gonna be a little bit farther out, but all I'm basically gonna do is use a connecting piece, and then I'm gonna connect it all the way to the front, and then I'm gonna connect a piece all the way to the back down here, just so that it makes it all nice looking. I just want something that's a little bit different than just pure rectangular tubing the whole way through this thing. Before we can get through all that, I need to make spindle mounts on these. It's just basically just a big C that goes around these to mount them up. Then after that, we can take these to the chop saw and get to cutting and measuring it all out. So we got our piece of plating all drawn up. I marked out 3.5 inches, which is the length of the spindle. And then I'm gonna go 1/4 of the way up because it's 1/4 inch thick. So when it folds over, it should be perfect. I say should because I don't really know. I don't know about any of this. I'm just doing stuff. None of you probably saw in the time lapse, when you put this in here and you go to bend it, it goes about right here and starts touching this. So I actually had to just keep on pressing. It's got a little bend in it, and I couldn't get a full 45. But we're gonna use my friend old Persuasion and get it fixed. Oh shit, you okay? Got that fixed. All I'm gonna do is hop it into the drill press here, crank her down, get it to where it's perfect, and then once I mount it to this plate, I'm gonna drill the hole, and then I'm just gonna raise the plate, and then I'm just gonna drill the hole right here so that hopefully it's all perfect. Now that we got our point mark dead center, we're just gonna get to drilling. So now that we got our first hole through, I'm just gonna bring it down to the bottom and just drill a little tap hole through here, take this vice grip off, and then once I have a hole all the way through, I'm just gonna flip it and then bring it to the other side so it's nice and centered. Now we got a hole that's dead center of where we need it to be. Might have put a bit of a notch through my table, but that's all right. It's made out of metal. Got it tacked into the engine mount here really quickly so I can get the angles that I need perfectly. The wheelbase is perfect. It matches exactly where I need it to be. The height of it is where I want it to be. So all I'm gonna do now is take this tire off very carefully, get the angle that I want out of the spindle, make sure that it's level with the ground, and then we can grab our center section over here, put it underneath, and then just start basically throwing gussets everywhere and making everything strong. Hopefully the last time we're going to take the engine out of this really quickly, just so that when I'm welding, I'm not throwing sparks and a bunch of heat at one, like a brand new engine. So I'm going to take it out for hopefully the last time, and then we're gonna weld up our spindles and then set her on the ground, and then we can put our engine back in. All right, now that the engine's out of its cage, all we need to do now is get these spindles welded up and mounted, and then we can put the engine back inside of here and set her on the ground. Now that our spindle's just kind of tack welded and mocked up in there, we're gonna grab our thick tubing, and then we're just gonna grab a piece, bring it all the way down to here, grab another one, bring it down to here, and then connect that piece all the way back up to the front. And that'll be way stronger than it needs to be. So I'm gonna get started on that. I'm gonna get to measuring this out with all my little favorite tools here, and we're gonna get to it. These are all cut up and cleaned out. I left a little breather hole at the bottom, so when I'm welding, it's not gonna just go pop. I'll fill it in when I'm welding. But we're just gonna put it right here, and then we're gonna make sure that this is all cleaned up and smoothed out with our little flap disc, and then we'll weld them together, and then we'll put it on the frame. Obviously there's gonna be a bunch of more of these, but this is just kind of to get it where I need it. So now that is done and welded up, you guys can tell what I'm talking about here. I'm just gonna throw some huge gussets underneath of this piece right here so that it strengthens up our spindle mount from twisting, and that this strengthens our mount from going back and forth. There's gonna be another one that goes from the back all the way to the other side, but I like this design because it keeps the interior of the frame bare, so that if there's anything that I need to put here, whether it be a radiator mount or anything like that, there's not a giant tube that comes all the way down here to here. It's a nice piece of flat steel that is just out of the way, and it makes it look pretty cool too. But now that we're at a point where I'm just gonna do the other side really quickly so that hopefully I can get this thing rolling for you guys at the end of this video. So what that basically means is we gotta head to our old chop saw there and cut out a piece of this tubing right here, and then we gotta do another piece of flat bar on our flat bar bender, and hopefully we can get this going and get it as least close to done as I can. Well, now that that's all done, I'm gonna make this into a piece of Swiss cheese because it's gonna have a hole in it. I thought it was pretty funny. The other side spindle mount's done, and we're going to get it welded up, and then we'll go grab our tire over there, and we need to finish building the spindle on the left side. But then she'll be a roller. We're gonna let it rest like a good steak because that thing is hotter than a blonde in a bikini. Did a couple things off camera because I'm just trying to get this done. I don't want my neighbors to call the cops on me. But everything that's loud is now done. We're still waiting on that thing to cool down. I spritzed it with a tiny bit of oil, and that thing is still steaming, so it's not done yet. But these are done. I'm just gonna weld these in, tack weld them, and then I'm probably not gonna build the plate like there just tonight, but we will be able to set this thing on the ground. We just have to wait for that thing to cool off. While we wait for that thing to cool down, I'm just gonna give these guys a nice tack weld, and then the spindles and the base mounts, I'm gonna kind of just weld like an inch bead on there, and then we'll set her on the ground. Got the spindles all put on and taken care of. Now it's time for the tires. Ooh, she clean looking. But that's it for this video. I'll see you guys next Thursday. Remember, we're trying to hit 26,000 subscribers before 2026. I will see you guys later. Stay freaky.